to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, keys to the city, we unlocking the statements.
Streaming every Friday.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. We are streaming on all social media platforms at Keys to the City. So comment, like, subscribe, or share. We are going to get into the New York Giants. We will also be talking about the conference championship weekend, as it was another, thank you football gods, for another classic weekend in the NFL. We'll talk about the Stafford. Was he the ultimate missing piece? Looks like that could be a true statement now. And Joe Burrow. Should we really be surprised by his play in this postseason and just in general throughout his short little rise to superstardom? But let's start off with talking about the rise of superstardom. Today, we started earlier on Sunday when we were talking about the games that the breaking news was Tom Brady did come out and retire, but we were on kind of pause for that moment to see, well, we wanted to actually hear him come out and say, as Jeff Darlington and Adam Schefter reported, and they got kind of ripped apart by the Twitter fanatics out there and all those people saying, oh, too soon to judge. Well, it is official now, ladies and gentlemen. The GOAT, the greatest of all time in the NFL, has officially called it quits after 22 years. And boy, oh boy, it is unbelievable to think now. And I just posted something not too long ago to see that this era, that me personally as a football fan feels like an older fan now, because you think about the quarterbacks that have retired the past 2 years. Eli, Big Ben this year, Phillip last year. We talked about it earlier on Sunday, but now you really put it into perspective, like, damn, like I'm getting older as we speak. And it's fascinating to see that we went through one of the greater eras of quarterback play in the history of the NFL. And one of the big reasons was because of Tom Brady. So I want to ask this question to you, Joe. When we think of sports greats, when I think of the Mount Rushmore of sports, we think of a handful. We think of guys like Michael Jordan, Tom Brady comes to mind, Wayne Gretzky, Babe Ruth, just like guys like that. But Joe, I want to ask you, what is Brady's legacy? Not just the NFL, because we already know what his legacy is in the NFL. He'll go down as the greatest of all time to some. Other players may say, Jerry Rice or Jim Brown or Lawrence Taylor. But most people would say that Tom Brady will go down as the greatest of all time. But what is his legacy in sports to you, Joe?
I don't think that there's any question who the best player is of all time. I don't know that anybody could really make a really valid argument. And the fact that he left Belichick to go out and just make sure everybody knew he didn't need that to get himself a championship. This guy transcends sports. He was maybe the best thing that's ever happened to football. More women are into football than ever before. And I can't help but think that him and Gisele Bundchen and their involvement in this league just made this sport even more appealing to people. And the fact that he was a winner and that a Victoria's Secret supermodel would want to be with a football player. I think that's every football fan's dream, is that that would be the life that you would have. And I think most of all, he's been a great teammate. He's been such a coachable guy. Whatever happened in New England, whatever that might have been like, worked out really well. And again, I think at the end of the day, you look at all of his accomplishments, you look at all the numbers, all the records this guy sets, the fact that, let's be honest, it was funny. Last week, when the story first came up, Teddy was shocked that Brady was retiring. We were shocked that a 45-year-old guy was going to retire from professional sports. That's mind-blowing. That a guy that age, and again, right, Teddy, we talked about it, he's probably better now than when he was 26.
Well, I was just reading the stats before. They said in the last 8 seasons, since he was 37, we have 3 Super Bowls, 35,000 yards passing, 240 plus
269 touchdowns compared to 65
picks. I was thinking about why you were saying this. Legacy in sports, he'll go down as one of the greatest winners of all time. All right. He'll be put in that Jordan. Derek Jeter, Bill Russell, aura of different players where you can say, okay, he's not just the greatest football player, he's one of the greatest sports athletes of all time. So, I was up real early this morning. I was watching a bunch of shows, and then I saw it when it came by. I'll just give you an example. So Jeff Saturday from the Colts, he goes, I know I'm going to get a little hate for it, but he's like, when I think about football players, I think about the whole football. He actually had LT as like the number one. And Stephen A. Smith and someone else had like Jim Brown. Because he said now Jeff Saturday said, listen, he's the greatest quarterback of all time. But when you talk overall football,
I still say LT to me.
Well, I mean,
I know it's biased.
I mean, athleticism, what he did, he changed the game. He made the left tackle maybe the most important position in football up until now, where I think it's definitely the quarterback. But LT changed the game. I mean, the blocking schemes, everything that he did transformed the edge pass rusher.
And how valuable it is to have an
the athletes like he did. And then you could add Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice's legacy as a receiver, dominant, consistency, longevity. Jim Brown didn't have the longevity.
But that's the
thing. And I was going to get to this, and then I know you want to do more, and I want to speak more on the legacy. But I'll say this. What I think really transformed Tom Brady's legacy to all the fans now was the past 2 seasons of Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. I think when you think about Tom Brady in New England, you just think business, like Joe. You know what I mean? Bring your toolbox or a briefcase to work, black and white suit, black tie, clean cut. I'm just here to work. There's nothing else. There's no social media. There's no, I don't do podcasts. When you ask me the questions like, we're just on to the next week. It's very Belichickian, all right? Very disciplined, black and white. There's no gray. There's no, I get drunk on the boat, carry me into the thing. There's no any extra stuff that you saw. You know what I mean? I'm thinking if Tom Brady's legacy in general, one of the greatest winners of all time, all right? Greatest quarterback of all time. I mean, his numbers speak for itself, his longevity. Joe, you are correct on this. When the retirement stuff came out Saturday and he was like, he's 44, he'll be 45. He did say he wanted to play to 45. But you think about this. Think about how his career started, how it ended, right? 199th pick, 4th quarterback. Drew Bledsoe, I said on Saturday, gets hurt, becomes a starting quarterback. History goes on. We know what this history is. I don't need to explain it. If you don't know, go check out him on Wikipedia. There's about a million zillion stories you can read on him. But you think about how his career ended. Yeah, I know it didn't end with a Super Bowl ring walking off the field, but he leaves the Patriots, goes to a team that's really not a model of consistency and winning, takes a team that had no really preseason, all the brand new players, new coach, leads them to the Super Bowl in the hometown, in the home stadium, wins it, beats the Chiefs team, Mahomes, which was building on a dynasty. Then comes back the year later, and about a week or two, he could be the MVP. 5,400 yards passing, 45 touchdowns. And the last thing you'll remember is he led his team to a 27-3 comeback in the playoffs, and his last pass ever as a football player is a touchdown pass, if you remember.
Yeah. Mike Evans.
To Mike Evans. So that's his I mean, you just think about Jeter. Jeter didn't go to the playoffs, didn't walk off as a winner, but his last legacy, Jeter's ending, is a walk-off single opposite to right field for a game against the Baltimore Orioles.
And that's the thing that we talk about with Brady is the longevity in the NFL. I mean, the consistency to continue to play at such, not just an average level as he gotten older, to play at, to excel, to
the best,
still being one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks at his and throughout the league by his peers, to get voted by as possibly MVP this year is remarkable. To see that he's 45 and he was still taking the lead.
44. He won't be 45 till summer.
Fair enough. Well, 44 still to take the league by storm in year 22. He retires year 2022 and
in 22 seasons
in his 22nd year. It is remarkable, and it's quite fascinating because you got to think about when Jordan retired. He was with the Wizards. It wasn't really, you don't remember Michael Jordan with the Wizards. You don't remember, kind of like Howard even said, you don't remember Joe Namath with the Rams, or you don't remember Montana with the Chiefs. Really,
still playing at a high level.
You remember Brady with the Patriots, but you also remember with the Bucs because he won a damn Super Bowl. He still was winning at the top of his level, and like Ted just said, there may be a a turnover away from possibly being in at least the conference championship game. We don't know what happens if Antoine Winfield doesn't give up the big play to Cooper Kupp. We don't know. We could be talking about Tampa in the Super Bowl for a repeat. And that's just amazing. That's another stat. There hasn't been a repeat champion in the NFL since the New England Patriots 2003-2004 season, led by Tom Brady. And if you want to talk about why he's considered one of the greatest of all time, you want to talk about stats, just go look up his stats. Every major record as a quarterback belongs to Tom Brady.
Can I add something to that before Joe finishes it off? I think when we talk about legacy, I feel like all we ever do is talk about stats and things.
He's got to back it up.
I just wish that, like, for one day I was able to see him at practice or in the locker room, because everything you talk about, they were saying before, they had Ty Wall on this morning, First Take, and he was talking about, he goes, listen, guys come in and out of the league all the time on the locker rooms. He's like, I'm going to be honest, I didn't know half the guys on the team. Like, he's like, I didn't know the names. He's like, Tom Brady knew every single player on the team, knew about his family, knew about things. Like, to be actually interested and be not just, hey, I'm Tom Brady, I'm the greatest player of all time, I don't really need to come up to you and say anything. To be able to know your players and be part of, like, literally family-like, you know what I mean? Like, you just, and the work ethic, the grind, everything that he had accomplished, more so outside of football, is it's remarkable. I will say this. I was thinking about this before, how I wanted to say this before, and I didn't start off. I want to say, after 22 seasons, I don't want to say disrespect or hate, the dislike that I had for Tom Brady, maybe it's because he played in New England, maybe it's the way he played, and I don't like Tom Brady. Now, listen, a lot of people dislike greatness. We talked about this with a lot of other things, with a lot of other people. People do not like greatness in the country. It's like anytime someone's great for more than a season or two, it's like, well, got to hate on them. The change in my whole philosophy and thought of who Tom Brady is and what he is as a player dramatically changed when he went to Tampa. Now, maybe it's because I'm a Giant, the New York-Boston thing. Maybe that's the partial reason. Maybe if he was playing for someone else and he was dominated, I'd have a different thought process. But just the change I have in Tom Brady as a person and as a player, personally for myself, I mean, it's transformed. I really did not like the guy. I respected him, but I didn't like him. And then now I'm like, this year I'm like, I was kind of rooting for him. Like, I kind of want to keep seeing Brady win. I don't know. It was something that I changed. I know a lot of people probably don't want to see that. But hey, listen, that's what makes sports great, and it's something that we'll continually talk about. And I'm just happy that I'm old enough to be able to see. For me personally, I think I'm the most blessed guy to be able to see, like, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady. And for me, those are like the greatest athletes I've ever seen. We talk about Babe Ruth, we talk about Ted Williams. They're just like, they're on a eight track where you see on highlights on YouTube and you read about them. You've never seen them play. You don't know what greatness is. To be able to not have to watch YouTube highlights of Tom Brady to know that's what greatness is, and to see it personally and see what he did speaks volumes.
Joe, finish it off.
All right, couple thoughts here. Number one, the way you feel about Tom Brady is the way I now feel about Justin Timberlake as well. Early on, just hated the guy. Now I'm like, you know what? He's all right.
Justin Timberlake.
I like that.
You also, well, just again, somebody who's got great success and is really talented, and it's easy to hate on those people. You know, it really is. And then as the guy grows older, you're like, oh, you know what? He's all right. You also brought up Derek Jeter, and it's interesting. The Yankee dynasty ended in 2000, and Brady picked it up the next year and then ran with that. You know, basically quadrupled the Yankees dynasty by taking it 20 years. Yeah. Awesome Brady. But yeah, you know, again, I think this guy absolutely transcends the sport now. And, you know, it's silly to say somebody put football on the map, but I really do think for everybody on the planet, I mean, if you know what football is, you've probably heard of Tom Brady. And I think that's going to be the legacy, just like, again, like with Jeter and the Yankees. If you're aware of baseball, you know who Derek Jeter is. You might not know A-Rod. You know, you probably don't know Aaron Rodgers, you know, unless you're into politics. So, again, I think some guys just transcend the sport. I think he is. And I'll tell you too, Teddy, as someone who got to watch Joe Montana and watch Michael Jordan in their best moments in their primes when the winning was so good.
Mm-hmm.
To have seen this guy, he's better. To me, it's hands down. And unfortunately for LeBron, a close second to Jordan. So that's cool too.
Yeah.
Consider Tom Brady never played with a Jerry Rice and he made all those average players of like an Edelman, like Wes Welker, David Patton. I mean, I can go on and naming guys, but to think about all the players that he made great, he did. So he made them better and made them Hall of Famers and because that's what happens. That's what great players do. They uplift their teammates, and he did that to the fullest.
So to close out this, when I think of these four major sports, when you think of GOATs, Mount Rushmore, basketball for me, it would be, you come to mind Jordan, and Babe Ruth would be for baseball to me, hockey's Gretzky, and then for football, if you're not putting Tom Brady in that, he's got to be at least in the discussion. And how he closed out his little Instagram post, his retirement, this is what he was ultimately. I'm not going to make that competitive commitment anymore. That's what Tom Brady was. Yes, he was a family man, but he was a competitor, and he was a damn good competitor for 22 freaking years in the NFL. So as we say to the GOAT, good luck with your future.
Hasta mañana.
Hasta la vista, and good luck to your future endeavors, because the NFL will be in good hands, because the new era of quarterbacks is taking over, and it's going to be a hell of a ride soon. We're going to talk about one of those quarterbacks in a few moments, but you're just talking about talent, a guy that could win all the time. Well, there's a guy that performed on Sunday that had always the talent for about 11 plus years, but he was at a terrible, terrible franchise in the Detroit Lions. But now we can finally say that Matthew Stafford is going to a Super Bowl. And the big question that we were surrounding ourselves around this entire season, like us and everybody else in this type of field, where we were just wondering, what are we gonna get? And it was one of the heater debates of the year between you and Joe, was Matthew Stafford, if he was going to be the missing piece for the LA Rams. And Ted, since you were so high on Matthew Stafford coming into this season, well, did it become pretty much clear that Matthew Stafford was the missing piece for the LA Rams?
He'll be the clear answer in 2 weeks if he wins. If he loses, he'll be another Jared Goff who got them there but couldn't overcome it. Listen, Jared Goff got them to a Super Bowl. So let's stop forgetting that Jared Goff got them to a Super Bowl. Okay, you could say Sean McVay carried him.
He had an incredible year that year.
He did have a great year. But just now flip the quarterbacks this year. Jared Goff wasn't able to make Detroit competitive. He couldn't. He lost his job. He got called out by his teammates and coach. Matthew Stafford never had that problem in Detroit. They never had a running game. Their best running back they had in his entire career was the 1 year Reggie Bush had 1,000 yards. Yes, he had one of the best receivers in all, Calvin Johnson, but he left early because he just couldn't take the beating and losing anymore. Never had a solid offense line. When's the last time he had a solid coach? When's the last time he had a solid offensive line? When's the last time they had a top 10 defense? All right, we talk about quarterbacks and where they go. If Tom Brady doesn't play for the Patriots, does he win 7 Super Bowls? Probably not. You know, we talk about it. Oh, what if this guy went this way? Listen, where you go and who you play with makes a big difference of how successful you are. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. Tom Brady played for the best coach and one of the best defenses during his early years. And then when he finally was able to take the reins and got his license and got off his permit, he took the Ferrari and took it for a ride and never came back and just left everyone in the dust. Matthew Stafford was trying to compete with people when he was driving an old run-down car. He didn't have the pieces. He's got the best team he could possibly ever have. He's got weapons. He's got the coach. He's got an awesome defense. He's been the main factor why they're in the Super Bowl. They were down in other games this season. He's led them back. He's had 34 comeback victories since he's been in the league, more than any quarterback in the league. Now people say, oh, that's because they were losing. Yeah, because they stunk. And he had to come back 34 times because their team was god-awful. All right? He's playing with a winning franchise. He's going to have an opportunity in 2 weeks to prove himself. They were down in double digits when the crowd was against them, against the division rival, and they were the reason why they won the conference championship game. He didn't play great, but he played well enough for them to win. Yes, if that guy makes a pick, maybe there's a different game. Hey, if Asante Samuel has the pick against Eli Manning, Giants don't win that Super Bowl and the Patriots go undefeated. So what ifs have always happened in the sports. There's opportunities to be made. They didn't miss. He capitalized. He played well enough. He beat Brady when Brady came all the way back. And you know what he did? First down, he gets sacked. Second down, hits Cup on the outside. Third, next play, first down, hits Cup for the thing. They kick a game-winning field goal. That's because of Matthew Stafford. He has been the difference maker. That's why you trade the pieces you did. He has been the reason why they are in this position. Because I think if Jared Goff was still the quarterback, they would not be in this game today.
Joe?
I think it's a tough spot for Matthew Stafford to be in because, like Teddy said, if he loses the game, people like me are going to be like, Jared Goff could have done the same thing. What are you kidding me? Matthew Stafford's not great. So, unfortunately for Matthew Stafford, he's got to go and win this thing in order to make it clear that he was the missing piece. I mean, let's be honest. We all know. It's become quite obvious. And listen, the acquisition of Odell Beckham and, coinciding with the loss of Robert Woods, that couldn't have worked out any better. That would have been a real problem for that team, I feel like, if you wouldn't have been able to replace Robert Woods with somebody who's way better than Robert Woods. It's kind of hard to do that midseason. So, yeah, it's a tough spot to be in. I think anybody who understands football understands that Matthew Stafford was the right guy and that Matthew Stafford in this situation was going to thrive and be great. But I think that's unfortunately still going to be there, that lingering thing of if he doesn't win the Super Bowl, then should have just stayed with Goff.
No, you're 100% right, because that's all we've been hearing. Goff was always the right reason for the Rams to never get to that next step. And Stafford has gotten to them in that position. But so, as Ted said, so did Jared Goff. And the year that Jared Goff got, it was his best year. He had an incredible season. I probably was a top 5 in MVP candidacy that year. He was unbelievable. But to see what Stafford has done in back-to-back weeks, to think about the throws he's made, to come back down 17-7 to a team that's been taking control of this rivalry the past 6 games, you really felt like, oh boy, looks like Matthew Stafford and the Rams are going to fall just a little bit short and just continue that kryptonite of the LA Rams, which is the 49ers. But Stafford delivered, Stafford made the plays, and that's why they're 60 minutes away from winning a Super Bowl.
Joe, are you surprised, similar to Tom Brady, that Matthew Stafford has come in and performed as well as he had in the first season? Considering then you could go. Considering beginning of the season, before he starts the season, he loses his best running back, right? Cam Akers is for the season, right? They've had multiple injuries on the team. Yeah. They've had some dysfunction. They've had some, things go on, and then there's also pressure. When you sign a guy like Odell Beckham, when you sign a guy like Von Miller, there's an additional pressure put on you as a quarterback to exceed expectations. Because if you think about it, that 3-game stretch on the season, pick sixes, didn't perform well, didn't look like the guy that's like, oh boy, is this Matthew Stafford from Detroit, or is this Matthew Stafford that we thought, going to get us to the Super Bowl?
Mm-hmm.
Sanders Sanchez just commented, and he's exactly right. When you took away the Rams running game in the Jared Goff era, it was a problem.
Yes.
That was the way you were going to be able to beat this team.
Because Gurley was the number one guy. It was
right. But
it wasn't that. It was because I don't think people didn't have the respect for Goff that they do for Stafford. Where Stafford,
right?
You don't buy it. You don't take Goff serious enough. You're like, oh, let's just take the running game away, and they got to beat us because Jared
Stafford
Goff
can make every throw.
Is Jared Goff really going to beat us? No, but Stafford, you're like, maybe. You have that. You're still thinking back of your mind.
Yeah, to me, that really is the difference maker when you talk about the difference between these two quarterbacks. Is right there's nothing Matthew Stafford can't do. There's no throw Matthew Stafford can't make.
Mm-hmm.
Jared Goff, on the other hand, little inconsistent when it came to that department. I still am going into this game a little bit still concerned with Matthew Stafford's ability to make a bad throw in a big moment.
I mean,
it's a little
honest,
Jimmy G-esque.
Let's be honest. If Tart from the 49ers, the safety number 3, just picks the ball off, like Ted said, we're probably talking about a Super Bowl that we haven't seen in over 40 years in the 49ers Bengals. We're not talking about is Stafford the missing piece. We're just talking about, it's the same old Matthew Stafford and the same old Rams. They couldn't get over them.
He is prone to that because the first pick, he threw it behind Cup. If he leads them, Rams go up 7-0, but because he throws it behind, the ball gets deflected. 49ers pick the ball up, and you're thinking Ward's going to take it to the house.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the 49ers are like, all right, here we go. Okay, because here's the thing. Stafford's going to make great plays.
He also just like an error throw.
But just like majority of the quarterbacks in the history of football, they're prone to make that mistake. Eli was prone to it. Even in his best games, he'd leave one or two that should have been picked, and they, like Asante Samuel said, didn't get picked. And then no one forgets about that. You just talk it as the backstory, like Eli led him, but man, if Asante Samuel just caught that, the Giants would have lost. Or if Tark catches the ball, the 49ers, you could think of games where guys did. Hey, we talk about it all the time in baseball. Guy makes an error. Remember the Cubs? Guy makes a throwing error, doesn't make the play. Next thing you know, base hit, home run, they're tied up, and then they win an extra. And you're like, man, if that guy just made a nice throw to first base or had the double play, innings over, they don't win, and we go to the World Series.
Yeah.
Steve Bartman, that was the 7th inning of Game 6.
Yeah, because now Gonzalez watched the ball.
Plenty of time for the Cubs to have made a comeback. So,
and he was the goal glove up. He botched the ball, and no one talks about that either. But like things happen for a reason.
Can we talk about? And no one's really talked about this, and maybe it's fair we don't, but. Could the game end any more Jimmy G like? Could that game have ended any more like you
like that's signaled off to his career? Like Jimmy, thank you for all the help, but your time has come.
Hey, let me just flip this ball off my receiver's hands into the ran, and then we'll call it a day. Well, it was such a Jimmy G ending, and because I thought he played fairly well in that game.
Yes.
But I never got the feeling he was going to win that game.
Joe,
I just didn't.
His limitations proved in the fourth quarter. Like we're talking about Goff and Stafford, right? Goff a good quarterback. Listen, he's number one pick. He's no scrub, okay? But there's quarterbacks that have, and we might get to it in the next segment or the segment after that, but some quarterbacks just have a gift, a little arm strength, little size, a little speed. They can do a little something extra. That's what Stafford brings that Jared Goff can't. Jimmy G, though, if you think about the thing that gets me is here. First down, 49ers. They get an 8-yard run at 2nd and 2. They run a fullback dive to Juszczyk. They get stuffed on 2nd and 2. Now, instead of running play action, knowing you could come back on 3rd down and run, they don't trust Jimmy G. They don't put the ball in his hand. 3rd down, what do? They ran the ball again. And they got stuffed again. And then remember, they punted the ball instead of going for 4th and 2 on the Rams 45. That's showing that you don't have trust in your quarterback to make the play. Because if you think because here's the thing. You think McVay does that with Stafford? I mean, and Joe, you talked about this last year. Andy Reid's trust in Chad Henne on 4th and 2 to be able to make that quick throw and saying, I know the play I can throw to. For Kyle Shanahan to say, I don't have a play to get the ball to Deebo Samuel on a screen or George Kittle, something that could put the ball in the quarterback's hand, to trust that he didn't have the trust in his quarterback at the end of the day. And that's the difference of why Jimmy G will not be their quarterback in the future, because you can't have a quarterback leading you to a Super Bowl that you don't trust that can get you 2 yards when you need to on 2nd or 3rd down.
I mean, this goes all the way back to a couple of years ago when they played the Minnesota Vikings in the divisional round. He threw the ball 8 times. I mean, that just shows that you just don't have – I mean, they were winning the game. They didn't really need to throw the ball.
But this is 4th and 2 to get to the Super Bowl. I know that,
but anytime you're throwing the ball, you usually like to see your quarterback throw the ball more than double digits. That's usually the way it goes.
We're talking 2 or 3 years later.
I know, but still, they didn't have the trust back in the day. They still don't have it now. And now his tenure as a San Francisco 49er quarterback will be coming to an end, and Trey Lance's era will hopefully officially begin. But to answer your question quickly until we get to the next point, having Stafford or Brady, having the talent that's around the team, having the coaching staffs that are around that team helps everything too. You just add a quarterback like that, it just takes you to a whole nother level. You go from Jameis to Brady, you go from Goff to Stafford. I know that's not a big, it doesn't sound like a big difference. It obviously has been a difference right now because this team is electric, and this team has a great, great opportunity to win a Super Bowl the first time in L.A. They won in St. Louis. Can they win one in L.A.? And they're going to be going against the Cinderella of the entire NFL season, ladies and gentlemen. A team that has had only 6 wins the past 2 seasons. Zach Taylor coming into the season was 6-25-1. Looks like his job was coming to an end. But all in all, there was a savior that came to good old Ohio. And his name was Joey B. Joe Burrow, Joey, I don't know what you want to call him. Joey Fresh, Joey Swag.
Joey Cool.
This man
Joe Cool, baby.
Joe Cool. He is at the ultimate just take the league by storm. And guess what? I'm going to do my talking, but I'm also going to do my walking. Like, guys, should we really be surprised by the play of Joe Burrow right now? Because he did it in college. He did it with LSU. When you think about where they were before Joe Burrow came to LSU, they were a team that was good. They were a good team. They couldn't ever get over the hump because they never had the quarterback. They could never beat the Alabamas. They could never beat the top-tier teams in college football. Well, they did. They dominated. And, yeah, we remember what that season was like. Then we go to Cincinnati, a team that's been in the dumps for a while right now, for over 30-plus years. Haven't been able to win playoff games. Look at them now. They are 60 minutes away from winning a Super Bowl championship. The turnaround that Joe Burrow has made this franchise is quite possibly one of the most fascinating in all of sports
seasons.
In all of sports history. It's not just NFL history. It's all the sports history because this team was terrible. There's no way in the world, and if there is, I'd love to see it proof, but there's no way that many people had the Cincinnati Bengals going to Super Bowl 56. So let me ask you, Ted, should we be surprised with Joe Burrow's play?
Honestly, not. I mean, if you really want to look at, he's been the best quarterback in all the playoffs. Better than Stafford, better than Mahomes, better than Brady. He's been the best quarterback throughout the whole playoffs. Consistency. He's been great. He doesn't lose in the playoffs. Doesn't lose big games. Hasn't lost in the college playoffs and just dominate. Hasn't lost in the NFL playoffs. Every game that they must win, he seems to get better and better. He's clutch. And we talked about it last week, and I was like, the Chiefs will win just because I just think they have the better talent and the defensive line will make the difference. Doesn't matter if he gets sacked 7, 8, 9, 12, 15, 100, 50 times this season. He just keeps coming at you and keeps coming at you and keeps coming at you. And that's the scary part. You think about this team. They are 2 years removed from having the number 1 pick. All right. He leaves after 8 games last season with a really bad knee injury. I think it was multiple things. Remember the hit? It was, you're like, oh my God, you're like thinking, please, for the Bengals, you're like thinking, I hope this is not like career ending. Hopefully he can, to be able to come back a year later after a significant injury and to do what he's doing, to take the beating he is and to just keep coming at them speaks volume to the character and the person he has. The reason why the Bengals are in this game is because of him. I said to this, we asked this question the other night to you and me and was not on the show. I said, do you think the Bengals regret not taking one of the offensive linemen, Sewell or Slater, because of all the sacks? And then you said, well, here's the difference, Ted. They're still in the conference championship. This was before the Super Bowl. I mean, because the question was before offense, should it be Jamar Chase, who he really wanted, or should it have been one of the offensive line? Now, I think Jamar Chase has changed this team dramatically. But the reason why this game and this team is in the position is because of Joe Burrow. He inspires players. He has something that we started the show off. He has a little Tom Brady-esque in him. When I say that, I mean a leader of the pack. People respect him. They play hard for him. And they believe in him.
He's a silent assassin. He does his talk. Like, he doesn't really talk, but he's just so confident.
He talks, bro. He comes out.
He just does his talking on the field. Yeah, by wearing suits and stuff. That's like a Brady.
No, Jeff, he talks on the field. He's got more moxie than you see it on the thing they talk about it. He comes at you. And here's the other thing. Remember when players used to talk crap to Brady? That was a bad thing. Because then Brady would find you in the field and go at you and score. Remember the Pittsburgh game, the guy called him out and he threw the post over his head and then ran 50 yards down the field in his face and said, do you like that?
So, Joe, see it like you think about the Bengals last year in the position that they were. They had the 5 pick. They could have taken one of the offensive line. They could have taken the star-studded receiver, Chase, his buddy, his roommate in college, Jamar Chase. And I said it like Ted said, they're still in the Super Bowl. I mean, Penny Sewell and Rashawn Slater will be perennial All-Pros, will be Pro Bowlers, left tackles, right tackles. They're going to dominate this game. But when you have a guy like Jamar Chase who's taking this offense to a whole nother level, yes, T. Higgins is great. Yes, Tyler Boyd is a very dependable receiver. Joe Mixon, one of the better backs in the game. But when you get a guy like Jamar Chase and the connection that these two have, and I did say at the beginning of the year, I think they have the best duo in the NFL, and I said that the past 2 years, other than Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, I'll take this duo, and they're doing it again. They're dominating the playoffs, and they make it look so damn easy, Joe.
Well, you could say the same thing. Look at Tua and Waddle. Yeah. When Tua came back from being hurt, boy, he really leaned into Waddle something fierce. I mean, I think there's again having that number 1 guy, and I think especially for these young guys to have somebody and you're comfortable with. Man, forget about it. That's too easy. Now here's the other thing, and I'll bring the Giants up for a minute. this upcoming draft is so deep and so heavy with offensive linemen that if you have the quarterback and the offense and the defense that you want, and clearly if you're the Bengals, you do, this is a great draft for you to now be able to go in there and rebuild your offensive line. Whereas if you had done that last year by picking Sewell, I don't know that you'd be where you are today if it wasn't for Jamar Chase and that connection. Because, again, I mean, outside of the numbers, that obviously put up phenomenal numbers, T. Higgins became a better receiver because of him.
Yep.
It opened up better opportunities for Joe Mixon. So Jamar Chase's overall influence, and I think part of the swagger is that Burrow is more comfortable. It's that familiarity. I always know I got that guy when I need him.
Yep.
And I think that's made such a huge difference. But again, for this team to be in a position where they're probably picking 31st, well, they're picking either 31 or 32. I'm going to guess 32. There'll still be some good offensive linemen in this draft. So you'll still be able to build this line out. Also, don't let it be lost at any Giants fan that B.J. Hill had a pick in that game.
I know. They traded him for
Joe, we know. And Joe, and Eli Apple has turned out, as much as he's talked a lot of.
He's a clown.
You know, guess what?
Man doesn't do anything. I know.
Listen,
he's the man that's
going to the Super Bowl.
He's going to the Super Bowl 100%.
And he's winning, and he's playing good football. And
I can't wait for Cooper Kupp to destroy him.
But he won't be matched up against him. It'll be Hilton. But listen, either way, the Super Bowl is going to be a great matchup. Think about this. I was thinking about this last night. I don't know if it's exactly 10 years. Probably it might be 11. But Joe Burrow and Stafford, #1 picks.
Yeah.
Both out of the SEC. Georgia and OSU quarterbacks.
Any funny? The day of the NFC Championship game, or yesterday, was the 1-year anniversary of the Rams traded for Matthew Stafford. So think about how that year has changed for them. I mean, you just got to be so surprised of the Cincinnati Bengals team. Not surprised by Joe Burrow because, I mean, he did it at LSU. He's doing it right now in Cincinnati. And this is an incredible run. And everybody wants to say, well, this Rams team is the better team because they're more talent. Sometimes talent doesn't always win. This team could be a team of destiny right now. And I will not be surprised because they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. They beat the Tennessee Titans. And their offensive line has got awful. Don't be surprised if we're seeing come Sunday night on February 13th at about 9:30, 10 o'clock, Joey Burrow is holding that Vince Lombardi trophy.
Well, Burrow beat Mahomes already twice. He's 2-0 now against Mahomes. And both games he was down by 14-plus points.
We've seen this before. Sometimes the better team, they don't always win. It's about the team of destiny, the team of heart.
Well,
and this team is a team of destiny right now, Joe.
Don't confuse the better team on paper with the better team.
The Rams are a better team on paper.
Absolutely, all day and twice this coming Sunday. But who's playing better?
I know.
I think it's hard to argue that there's a team playing better than the Bengals or that there's a quarterback in this league right now that's hotter than Joe Burrow.
Joe, these are the two best teams that are playing right now. If I had to pick a team from the NFC, it'd be the Rams. If I had to pick a team from the AFC, it was probably the Bills at first, but the Cincinnati Bengals, the way they were winning on the road, and the way they're taking over games. They're dominant. It's not pretty, but they're taking over games. They shut down an offense that we've come to accustomed as being, wow, this offense is unstoppable in the Kansas City Chiefs. They shut them down in the second half. There was nowhere to be found for Patrick Mahomes in this Chiefs offense.
Were they like 6-2 in week 8? Does that sound about right? The Bengals, yeah.
They were the #1 seed, Joe.
Yeah, they beat the Ravens.
Okay, all right.
They beat the Ravens
after they beat the Ravens, and Trev, you and I talked about it.
Week.
They got pounded the next week, and then I think they lost the week after that to the Jets. It was a rough patch because I remember talking about it at the time, and we were like, "Boy, this team."
We buy into
looks
it.
ahead of schedule. They got that defense. You look at the offense when these guys are on. Boy, it's hard to stop them. And we started sort of floating that idea, and then they kind of fell off, and they kind of middle of the pack it for a little bit there, and they've straightened out their issues, and here they are. I want the Bengals to win because. I was a big Boomer Esiason fan as a kid, and they also had Ickey Woods. For anybody, maybe you know the Ickey Shuffle. That was one of the great dances in football history. I always liked it. James Brooks,
Chris Collinsworth.
Collinsworth was there. Boy, I mean, I was always just something about the Bengals always sort of got my eye. My brother was a Niners fan. I watched the Bengals lose both of those Super Bowls, and in my heart was secretly cheering for them. Now that they're here, I don't know. I as of last year didn't love Joe Burrow. I still wasn't really sure if I liked this guy.
I don't think you were high on him until this year, until late into the year. You weren't really big on him.
As a matter of fact, it was when he beat the Ravens because I said, I got to see this guy win big games that matter. Division. He hadn't won a division game yet in his career.
He's done that.
And this is the argument. Joe, this is the thing when we got into it and I was yelling about Baker Mayfield at the beginning of the season. Remember I said, like, if he was not the first number one pick, the opinion on him would not be as dramatic as so much. But this is what I talk about when you get drafted as a quarterback, especially in that first 10 picks. Later in the round, maybe like Rodgers or certain other guy, you sit for a couple years maybe because
you were the number one pick.
But you're the number one pick. You're supposed to uplift your team and make them better, even if the team's bad. Stafford did his best. All right, they had some winning games. They didn't one winning season, couple, but like they were competitive most of the time with him. And he took a beating. And when's the last time you thought about Detroit being good? Like, really, even in my history, I think that would be the biggest, how
about competitive?
That would be the one team where, like, I'd be shocked if they ever make the Super Bowl. Like, Detroit is just a sense of failure. Everything you think about Detroit is a sense of failure. And if you
saw the memes, it's hilarious. Matthew Stafford's going to be playing in the Super Bowl. And Eminem's going to be performing.
Closest Detroit's ever been.
Closest Detroit Lions will be going to the Super Bowl. It sucks to say, but right now.
But this is why it's important to get the right quarterback. And because I was thinking about this as you guys were talking. I'm like, Rams went to trade up to get Goff. Eagles traded up to get Wentz. They're both nowhere to be found. You know what I mean? They could be out of the league in 2 years as backups, or because the importance of getting the quarterback right in the first round is so important.
Make or break to franchises.
And absolutely, listen, sometimes you get lucky in the 6th round.
Unless you're Arizona, then whatever.
But Russell Wilson's and Tom Brady's don't come around that often. It's usually first round quarterbacks. All right. And that's why it's very important to play great and be great early, because look at Joe Burrow and look what he's done in a short time. He's got weapons. His offensive line has been beat up. He's sacked? I think it's 62 times now this season, right? The Bengals have never won anything, right? Your defense was middle of the pack, but they've been opportunistic when they've needed to be. But he's been the difference maker, and that's why it's important that your quarterback plays best. And, Joe, you've said it. I know I get on you, but you got to win some of these big games. Like, you're going against the Ravens, but you know what you do? You throw for 400 yards. You throw for 5 touchdowns. You're down against Mahomes at home in week 17, 14-plus points. You come back and you beat them. Then the AFC Championship game, you're down 14-plus points again, and you come back and you beat Mahomes again at his place. Now, I know that's a team effort, but the quarterback is the reason why teams score points. You have to be able to put 7 on the board instead of 3. And Joe Burrow throws a great ball, and he's accurate, and he's just good, and it's going to be exciting to watch him go forward, because I tell you, this Bengals team's not going nowhere. They're young, and Joe, you said something before. You were worried about the draft with offense. They have $55 million a cap. So go draft someone, go pick up one. There's 2 more pieces. You already have Jonah Williams, and then the other guys build, and you keep your pieces, and next thing you know, you're like, hey, Bengals, you're a Super Bowl contender again next year if you don't win it.
Funny, we were talking just last week about the difference between the Bengals and the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are coming into that era where they're going to be getting, $38 million cap hits on Mahomes. Meanwhile, you're on Joe Burrow's rookie contract. Your offense is like absolutely where it needs to be. You got $55 million in cap space. You go out and sign two offensive linemen and draft 2 offensive linemen, and you'll have a drastically better offensive line next season after you just went to the Super Bowl. And I'll just point out, listen, I think it's easy, again, to say the Rams are too good, the Rams defense this, the Rams offense that. This Bengals team, man, 2003 Marlins. Again, I don't think you have to be the best team. I think you have to be the team that's playing the best.
Yes.
And right now, I'm sorry to say, the Rams are not playing as well as the Bengals. Nobody is. The Rams clearly are playing second best in the NFL.
I think both of them are evenly playing.
Well,
right
I
now,
mean,
would
listen,
say.
the Rams went in and dominated the home game against Arizona. Arizona had no chance. Then they were crushing the Bucs at the Bucs, and if it wasn't for 5 fumbles, they should have blown the Bucs out, and that Akers doesn't fumble before the half, similar to the Chiefs game where they don't go for it. You kick a field goal, you get 7 points. That game's over. So then they crush the Bucs. The 49ers game, it is what it is.
No, that's not what it is.
But, I mean,
that's why I give the Rams credit, because you found a way to win. You were down 17-7 to a team that's been
At home.
At home but losing to a team that you've been getting dominated in the past couple seasons, and for you to come back and deliver that's a huge.
Right.
That's huge.
Chiefs
That's
have been
more impressive to
dominating
me
football,
than
the
this blowout.
entire league, though. I mean, it's like again, you look at the familiarity of the Rams and the Niners, and it's like, for crying out loud, how the hell can McVay not figure out how to beat this team? You're in your home. What more could you possibly want if you were the Rams? And then right at the end, you got gift wrapped in a win twice, first by Tart and then by Jimmy G. Yep. The difference being, take a look at Cincinnati on the road. Again, I mean, just you beat the 2 best teams on the road, and now you're going to a place that, let's be honest, we talked about it. They've never been there as the LA Rams. There's not a rabid fan base. By the way, Sketchy Peasant was right last week. The Sea of Red was alive and well.
Of course.
So again, I think if you're the Bengals, this is probably not a place you're scared to go. I don't think you're intimidated to go be playing in LA. Certainly that defense is great, but
we'll see what happens.
Been a lot of close games that they've been playing, so I don't know.
It's 12 days away. We'll be talking more and more about the Super Bowl 56 between the Rams and the Bengals, and one of the most unlikely matchups coming into this season that we're going to get to see for a 60-minute slugfest. I can't wait for it. But we've been talking about quarterbacks. We've been talking about this and that today, about the greatness of quarterbacks. And I think we have to talk about the new addition to the New York Giants family and their new head coach. And why do I want to bring this up is because the Giants have one of the biggest question marks in all of the NFL. This is probably their number one question for their team, but it's one of the big talking points of the entire NFL season. Anytime you can talk about a top 10 quarterback, drafted quarterback, I should say, like Daniel Jones, and the year that he's coming into, the struggles that that has been going throughout his young early career, the different offensive coordinators, the schemes, all the difference every year. That's going to be one of the big focal points and one of the talking points of this offseason for the New York Football Giants. So let me ask you a simple question, boys. Whoever wants to take it away, will Daniel Jones work for new head coach of the New York Giants, Brian Daboll?
Yes. Look, this kid's got the skills. He can run. He's fast. He's athletic. He can make great throws. We've seen him make great throws. So I think if they put him in the right situation, I think if there's an offensive line that's giving him support, I think this could work out for the Giants. And again, for anybody who's not sure, I don't know that there's any choice here anyway. You're going to run Daniel Jones out here in season 4. And if they go 4-13 again, he's gone. Saquon's getting traded. Bradbury's getting like they'll just clean house, and it'll really be a real rebuild. You'd almost have to do that. But I think this is going to work out because, again, I keep hearing people mention Dave Brown. And if you weren't alive in 1994, shut your mouth. Because to even compare these two guys outside of the fact that they both went to Duke shows a complete ignorance. If you ever saw any highlight of Dave Brown, not anywhere near, he's more of a Mike Glennon than he is a Daniel Jones. So the comparison is way off.
He came out of the supplemental draft by the New York
that's still a draft. That's if you left as a junior, you had to go supplemental.
But I know that you had to give up things to get supplemental. I don't know if it's different now than it was in 1994. It doesn't matter. Here's the thing. Does Daniel Jones have skills to be good? Yeah. Have they been shown at times? Yeah. Consistency, though. We started the show off with consistency about the greatest player of all time, about work ethic, about building, making your team better. And then we went to Joe Burrow, right? And belief and leading team as a young player. Well, he doesn't have the skill of either guy, but he can win games in the football. I don't know how good his skill is, right? We know he's athletic enough to run 85 yards and fall in the grass when there's no one there. We know he can make key throws. But here's the biggest thing. This is the most important thing. Take the arms, take the legs, take all that nonsense out of the thing. Because everyone thinks, if he runs the faster, it doesn't matter. It's this. To be able to process information from here and take it to there. When I say there, I mean the field, is the biggest component of course. And you can't measure that. All right. You guys get away with things because their skills, they can run out of things, but that's because they don't know what they're doing. Simple thing. Here's Mahomes. Mahomes said it last year, even in the Super Bowl after. I don't know where I'm going with the ball. I think still Mahomes doesn't know where he's going with the ball at times, but he gets away with the skills guys he has and the talent and the schematics that the offensive coach puts them and goes, hey, listen, if it's not there, go here and here. Because you watch a lot of times his backyard football. Doesn't know where he's going with the ball. Doesn't understand about the checkdowns. That's when he went through his bad time. Daniel Jones has to be a model of consistency, okay? That's the biggest thing for me. Now, let's bring back Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator. Let's keep that familiarity, all right? Let's figure out what we're going to do in the draft. What I do like is that the GM is young. Daboll is young. They both have experience. What did Daboll say? He's been in football for like 30 years or something. It was like 20, 30 years. Right, so he's been in the game. He's coached under Nick Saban. He has Belichick. He's been with great coaches before. He knows how to win. He's been part of a lot of. Do you know like all his championship games have all come down to like the last possession or the end of the games between the Patriots and Saban and all? Always come down to the wire. So he knows what it's like to be. He knows what greatness looks like. He did it with Josh Allen. Stop comparing DJ, Josh Allen. They're not in the same ballpark. Sorry, they're not even close to each other. But can Daniel Jones be good? Enough to be a giant quarterback of the future? Yeah. We like to see what Daboll can build, but it's a work in progress. What I do like this, and I'll take it away from the DJ then. I watched the press conference session. He wasn't Obama. He wasn't Joe Judge with his rah-rah and all these great speeches and we're going to be tough like New Yorkers. No. He just said it like it was. Hey, listen, it's going to be a work in progress. We understand Giant fans have to be patient. Don't expect big things next year. That's what Giants fans have to have a realistic understanding of what's going on. They have to scrap this whole thing and work. They understand that they hired an idiot GM who was selfish, egotistical, and old and out of the game, and he set the Giants back for years. All right? Awful. And part of that is the mayor's understanding that they tried to keep with the same thing over and over, Joe. But you said this before, and I forgot how you phrased it, but change is good. You can't always keep going down the same path because you're going to get the same consistent answer at the end of the day. Change is good. I like that these guys, Shane and Daboll, are connected to each other for the next 5 years. They have familiarity with each other in Buffalo. The offense is good, has talent. We need to get under the cap. We got to get healthy, and we got to be consistent, though. We have to be consistent. That's the biggest thing as a Giant fan, not just DJ, but this team. How can 1 week you look like you're playing the Chiefs really hard and you have an opportunity, and then 2 weeks later you're playing a team and you look like you don't even belong, like you've never practiced football in a day in your life? That is what consistency is. We don't need rah-rah speeches, one for the Gipper. Go just play football, be consistent, and play great when you need to, and that's it. And the wins will come. It takes time. It's not easy to win football games. But I think Daboll has the skill, and I think if he can get whatever the best of DJ is, then the Giants will win games. If DJ can't take what the teacher is teaching him in the classroom and put it on the football field, he will be out of the league, or be like a Mike Glennon. He'll be a road warrior in the league as a backup. And the Giants will, like you said, Joe, when you start off, the Giants will scrap the plan and go after quarterback or trade for a quarterback, and they'll figure out what they have to do with the rest of the team. But he's got 1 year. I would not give him an extension. Give it a 1 year deal, prove it. And if not, you get another 1 year deal. And then we can franchise you or do it, but not giving him an extension. But Daboll has a lot of work. Good luck. I hope for our sake as Giant fans, he does a good job. And I hope DJ works, because I don't really have to want to scrap the whole plan. But if that's what needs to be for the New York Giants, then so be it, because all we want as New York Giant fans is some wins. I'm sick of watching L's on the board every week, because at the end of the day, I got sick of watching the Giants for the first time in my life this season. I got sick of watching. I had rather watch Red Zone than watch the New York Football Giants, and that had never happened in my 34 years of life.
So, bummer. I don't know if I'm sure you guys probably already heard this, but Ken Dorsey is not going to be leaving the Bills to join Daboll. He's decided to stay there. I just read a comment. I don't think it's true, but somebody said he was watching film of DJ and decided
Probably. Would you say
he was going to stay put?
I mean, Joe, but it is. You think about that.
That's a bit of a shocker. Joe,
but here's the thing:
he's not.
Why you like Daboll? But here's the thing: would you rather work with Josh Allen or rather work with Daniel Jones? You know what I mean? Like, you as you know, with some of these coaches and things, you got to think. Yeah, Does Brian Leftwich now? If Brady was coming back, do I really want to go to Jacksonville? I mean, if there wasn't Trevor Lawrence, but do I really want to go to this team where like I don't have a quarterback and I'm not sure if he's going to be there and what's the consistency of the team, or would I rather go?
So listen, the finalists for
I still have Josh Allen.
Finalists for the Giants offensive coordinator: Pep Hamilton, Mike Kafka, and Chad O'Shea. Now that Dorsey is
Mike Kafka,
I wouldn't mind Pep
49.
Hamilton.
I think
Pep Hamilton's not a bad offensive-minded coach. He's got a great respect around the league. I think he can help it. And I did like how Daboll mentioned. My final point is let him get the playbook and let him find stuff that he likes from his college, even his college days to his pro days that work for him, and he'll build around that. And I give him credit for that. I think that's how you have to. We also got to take into consideration too. Yeah, and it's worked.
So he did with Allen.
That's what's got to take into consideration. He's had 2 new head coaches. He's had a bunch of offensive coordinators. He's got a whole this team can't stay consistent. They've been as you said, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again. That's what the New York Giants have been doing, that they got to the point of insanity. They need to do something brand new and say, scrap it all, take the Band-Aid off, let it bleed out, and we will start fresh and new. That's what the New York Giants are doing, and that's why I'm excited to see, because you know what? They got people out of house, and that's that's the biggest thing for me. They didn't get a GM from inside. They got it from the outside, an unknown face to this franchise that is young. He's a very smart, well-rounded guy that Brandon Beane and Bill Parcells have talked extremely highly about. And now you got a coach that has been around the game for a while. He has struggled at times as an offensive coordinator, but he's had his moments. Now it's his time to be a head coach. The name that we've been hearing for years has officially become a head coach, and it is with the New York Football Giants. I'm hoping for not a quick rebuild because it's going to take time. This team is in a tough predicament right now. And thank you, Dave Gettleman, forever for being the worst GM in New York history, sports history. Joe, do you have anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say I'm a little bummed. I'm excited about Daboll and Joe Shane, and I like that we went outside, and I like that we brought in guys from a winning organization and a couple of guys who have resumes that have, again, you got Bill Parcells in the mix with these 2 guys. Again, I love that stuff. I'm bummed about Dorsey, I'll be honest, because in addition to the work that he's done with Josh Allen, people might forget, but Ken Dorsey, the year Cam Newton won the MVP, he was the quarterback coach there and did a really good job with that. And so
I'm a bit surprised that he's not. That was supposed to be the guy. I thought it was going to be a done deal.
Handshake deal, yeah, dude. He basically went back on his word here, which is
but you know what though, Joe? The Bills probably said, because there is no salary cap, hey, we'll throw in some more money. You stay here, and he probably says, hey, listen, there's a familiarity like I used before, and you have Josh Allen. Like, they're not.
You know what, Teddy? Teddy, if you're trying to fast track yourself to become a head coach,
you stay there.
You stay there. You offensive coordinate this year.
No. You take the
no, because
hold on. It would be more impressive.
Like a respectable.
It would be more impressive, bro.
The credit.
They're so good.
You
got a sure thing going with Josh Allen.
Joe, quick question on us, because I'm trying to be devil's advocate. Who gets the credit when Mahomes is great? Andy Reid, not Bieniemy.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, if the Giants do well, they're going to say the difference why Daniel Jones is because Daboll's head coach and influence on the offensive game scheme, not the OC Dorsey. But if Daboll leaves and Dorsey's able to take Allen and keep him at that level, or even maybe make him better, if that's even possible, It's like, all right, well, next year, or maybe not next year, but in 2 years, you become the Kellen Moore. Then you're like, you're the next hot. You're the hot guy.
I think he'd be a head coach by next year.
He's been in the league.
He plays his cards right.
2 years, give or take. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, dude, I just think, you have Josh Allen have another MVP type season. You know, maybe the Bills win a couple more games than they did last year with Daboll.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, Ken Dorsey is definitely a head coach somewhere. Somewhere terrible, but somewhere nonetheless.
Can't wait.
Well, it could be the Dallas Cowboys.
No,
could be, yeah.
Could be because Mike McCarthy and Sean Payton's not going to Dallas. Telling you, once he sits in that booth and it's nice and warm and there's less stress, and he has Monday through Friday off and he just flies out on Saturday to do the game on Sunday and then gets paid a lot of money because the TV markets are going to pay them a ton of money because Troy Aikman's supposed to be leaving Fox to go to Amazon. Supposedly that's what I heard.
Must be nice.
Big money.
Delivering packages? What are you doing
No,
at Amazon?
bro. Amazon does the football games, bro.
Like
Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime does the football games.
When?
They do the Thursday night football game.
Been for a couple years.
So they want him to be the big name. They want him to
on
be the big
Thursday
name.
night football. Congratulations, Troy Aikman. That's like being the best quarterback in the preseason.
Well, I know. Joe, it might be a thing where he's trying to push Fox for a raise because I know there is. I read some. He is a little jealous about Tony Romo's money because Romo's got the big deal.
Romo's good.
Troy's good though. We hate Troy
fine.
because he's a Dallas Cowboy and he always hates on. But if you watch Troy, they were talking about the other day. If you watch Troy, if you thought that guy who played for the Dallas Cowboys who retired was going to be one of the lead guys of all commentators on professional football, he's him and Joe Buck. As much as we can't stand them, are very good.
Yeah,
they have a bias toward the New York Football Giants.
It's okay. They have bias towards.
It's okay. Joe Buck hates the Yankees too.
It's okay. But ladies and gentlemen, we will be back at the end of the week. We will start previewing Super Bowl 56 as well as I cannot wait. Like I said, Super Bowl 56 is official. The Cincinnati Bengals take on the Los Angeles Rams. Maybe we'll start talking some basketball. Baseball is still just MIA, like just nothing going on.
There's some things coming.
We can only.
I've been reading the tea leaves, Joe. Because I was reading some stuff about the Yankees, what this stuff. And
we'll see what happens.
Listen, because in 2 or 3 weeks, that's when pitchers and catchers are supposed to. And that's when things start kicking in. You're like, oh, we start losing money much more. All right. Well, now we really got to get back to business.
We'll see what happens. Should be a lot of fun. Ladies and gentlemen, we are Keys to the City. We're streaming on all social media platforms at Keys to the City. So comment, like, subscribe. You could check out ClovercrestMedia.com, the host of many podcasts and many more, and the president of ClovercrestMedia.com, the Joseph Aguirre, and Ted Keys, who's the co-host of Keys to the City. Ladies and gentlemen, Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. We are out.
Yep.
Trying to get it. Oh, froze. It's froze.
Yeah. Keys to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, keys to the city, we're unlocking the statements.
Streaming every Friday.